Welcome back. So, we finally reached the end of our deep dive into the unified fractal resonance framework. And this is where it all comes together. We're going to tackle its most audacious claims, its radical implications for reality, its brand new predictions, and maybe most importantly, the exact ways it could be proven totally wrong. Okay, let's get into it.
The entire framework really just boils down to this one monumental question. It asks us to, just for a moment, set aside our deepest intuition that the universe is made of tiny bits and pieces. And instead, what if it's all just one continuous, evolving geometric flow? And at the absolute heart of that flow is this, the EXB vortex. Now that's E for the electric field, B for the magnetic field, and they're locked in this self-sustaining dance. In this view, there are no fundamental particles. No, everything we see, everything we are, from a single photon to an entire planet, is just a stable, repeating pattern inside this one electromagnetic process.
Now, if that core idea is true, it doesn't just tweak our understanding of physics a little bit. Oh no, it sets off a chain reaction, a kind of philosophical domino effect that changes how we think about, well, pretty much everything.
The very first domino to fall is the concept of things. Reality shifts from being this collection of static particles to a dynamic, continuous process. Mass isn't something an object has anymore. It's just a measure of how complex its underlying pattern is. And the theory goes even further, suggesting that consciousness itself pops out of the geometric coherence of these EB processes, just at a massive, massive scale.
And this, right here, illustrates the next huge shift. UFRF argues that mathematics isn't just some convenient language we invented to describe reality. It claims that the theorems, the proofs, the constraints of math, they are the rules of reality. Every geometric necessity becomes a physical law. Okay, let's zoom out. Way, way out. Let's head to the cosmic scale and see how this all builds. If reality is a geometric process, what in the world does that mean for the biggest mysteries out there? Like, say, the dark universe?
So the key here is what the framework calls the projection law, and it states that we never, ever observe reality as it is. Think about it like this. A 3D cone can cast a shadow that looks like a perfect circle, or an ellipse, or even a hyperbola, all depending on the angle of the light, right? The cone itself doesn't change, but our 2D view of it, our projection, absolutely does. Well, the law says our measurements of the universe are just like that shadow, totally shaped by the difference in scale between us and whatever we're looking at.
So here's the crucial point. Just like with that cone's shadow, those little deviations we measure in experiments, they might not be errors. They might be predictable, calculable effects of this geometric projection. The underlying reality could be simple and perfect, but our view of it gets skewed by our particular scale.
And this is where it gets really wild, because this leads to a stunning implication for the whole dark universe problem. UFRF claims that the split we observe, roughly 70% dark energy and 30% matter, isn't some big mystery about missing stuff. It argues that this ratio is the necessary predictable geometric projection factor that just has to exist between our scale and the ultimate cosmic scale. The dark universe, in this view, is basically a trick of perspective.
Now, what's really interesting to me is how this geometric view claims to reveal a hidden blueprint in the mathematical tools we've been using all along without even realizing it.
I mean, take Fourier analysis. We know it as this incredibly powerful technique for breaking down any complex wave into simple sine and cosine waves. We think of it as a useful tool, but UFRF makes this bold claim that it works because it's literally reading the physical E cross B structure of reality. The sine components, they aren't just functions. They are the E field oscillations. The cosine components are the B field oscillations.
This geometric interpretation goes for the fundamental constants, too. The framework claims that the inverse fine structure constant, that magic number in physics, around 137, isn't just some arbitrary number we measure. It claims to derive it from first principles as a required geometric ratio built purely from pi.
And get this, the theory says this number doesn't just run electromagnetism, it governs information and stability itself. It predicts that any complex network, it doesn't matter if it's neurons in a brain, people on social media, or nodes in an AI, will hit a critical limit and start to break down as the number of interconnected parts gets close to 137. But look, a theory can sound as elegant and beautiful as you want. It's only really scientific if it can be tested and, potentially proven wrong. So,
Let's see what specific, falsifiable predictions UFRF actually puts on the table.
And that's the thing. Unlike a lot of untestable ideas in theoretical physics, this framework offers up a whole slate of concrete predictions that experimentalists can go out and actively look for. It's not just trying to explain old data, it's making new claims about what we should find next.
For example, it predicts the next major nuclear shell gap. You can think of this as a magic number of protons and neutrons that makes an atomic nucleus super stable. UFRF predicts the next one will be found at an energy of approximately 14.0 mega-electron volts, once you correct for those projection effects. That is a hard number physicists can go hunt for.
It also predicts that physical systems at a point of perfect energetic balance, a state of maximum stability it calls a rest state, will show an efficiency boost that's governed by a universal geometric factor, the square root of the golden ratio, which is about 1.272. And here's the wild part. It claims this exact number should pop up in places as different as quantum effects in graphene and the energy transfer between merging black holes. So that brings us to the crucial point. What would it actually take to definitively disprove this entire framework? Well, the theory is very clear about its own potential points of failure, giving us a pretty straightforward checklist for falsification.
So here it is. If experiments show that measurements don't shift predictably with scale, the projection law is broken. If that 14.0 MeV nuclear gap is absolutely definitively not found, the theory is wrong. If that universal 1.272 efficiency factor is missing from balanced systems, well, the theory's predictive power just evaporates. This is what the scientific method looks like in action.
At the end of the day, UFRF is just incredibly ambitious. It's derived from first principles, and it tries to show a consistent geometric unity across 62 orders of magnitude. It forces us to completely reconsider the relationship between math and physical reality, a relationship that's so beautifully captured in Euler's identity.
So we'll leave you with this one final thought. If the framework's core premise holds, if mathematical structures really are physical realities, then this equation isn't just a piece of beautiful abstract math. No, it's a statement about the fundamental geometric structure of existence itself. So what do you think it's telling us?